Well, welcome back to another evening of racing here at CVR. My name is Pirate Laserbeam and I'll be doing the commentary for today's championship, which is taking place at the Circuit di Alessandria, although technically using Fontenay, because I don't believe the circuit, as named earlier, is actually available as a mod. But we'll be using Fontenay as a replacement today, and this is race number 10 in the championship, so if you've been following along the championship thus far, you will have seen all the action that's been leading up to this point, but should be a really exciting race happening today with a exciting circuit and a good mix of drivers in similar performance cars now. So lots of drivers in equally competitive vehicles, which will make for some good battles. I'll get into some details around the standings and the starting lineup in a few moments. Just taking a quick moment to realise that there's two cars driving the directions down the straight there. Not entirely sure what's going on with that. But yes, a bit of action between the last round and this one. I'll read out the damage list, so buckle up. There's quite a bit to get through. But effectively, J. Lemure, £25,000 worth of repair fees for various crashes. T. Kusler, 20,000 credits to repair damage as well. Darling and La also picked up 20,000 of credits following crashes in the previous race. Paul van Rosen, 15,000 credits for damage. Clio, 15,000. Lubramiski, also 15,000. Hallin, Salvero, Silverstone, all received £10,000 worth of repair bills. And then Nurmi, Tropke, Lafrege and Renaud all picked up 5,000 for damage at about 50 kilometers an hour. So more damage than we normally see in one of these rounds. We also had the following drivers not picking up any prize because they didn't finish the race, which includes Lobkov, Aitanen, Kusler, Clio, Trumpke and Darling. So yeah, quite an eventful round last weekend, or last month, and hopefully this is a cleaner, less dramatic race today, but dramatic for a different reason, and that should be the close battles. So Alessandria, or Fontenay in this case, is one of the last dirt tracks in the season as pavements are becoming more and more common. So drivers will be driving on the HS, which is high stud tyres, and they have the best grip on dirt, but they will wear out pretty much by the end of the race, but they are expected to go the race distance on one set of tyres without replacing. As we are now in the 1929 season, the car selection is pretty much the same as the previous year's Coppa Serbo, but the Mercedes has upgraded the SSK to have 25 horsepower more, which will make things a little bit more interesting for that beast. And we've also got pretty much no other major changes across the grid, which means the Delage remains the dominant car. Even the older 26 model is pretty competitive compared to the others. Talbots, Mercedes and Bugattis are considered to be the underdogs for this round, and we'll see how they do as we get through the rounds, or through the laps. Engine cooling isn't considered to be an issue for this round, which will remove one element from the driver's consideration, and the weather is going to be sunny as in the Italian spring, and there's usually no rain around this period, so there's no rain forecasted for today. Even the wind is pretty mild, so it'll be pretty much perfect conditions for the drivers out there, and hopefully that will contribute to some good battles. Regular standing start to be employed as per usual, and the ballot for the start, which I'll bring up now, is quite favourable to some of our top drivers. So you can see Kusler, Lazaro and Lindholm grab the top 3 spots. We've got Lafrege, Tolonen, Lubramiski, Korkayowski, Peltonen, Smith, Rosette and Heitinen all in the top 11. And I think the only kind of interesting thing to mention other than that is that we have a new driver joining the grid, which is Nestia. They are starting in P21 for this particular race. And then also one of our championship leaders, which is Nurmi, I believe, is not available for this round, and therefore that will potentially tighten up the standings as we go into the remaining rounds, which will be interesting to see what that does to the dynamic. Looking at the overall championship standings, we can see Nurmi in the top spot with 256 points, and then Marcus Peltonen in P2. But as I mentioned, Nurmi is going to be racing today, so that will definitely tighten that top position there and make things interesting for the battles coming up in the later stages. Leave that on the screen there for a few moments more to let you all digest the standings, but feel free to pause the video after if you require a bit more time to look at that. So our drivers are on the starting grid. I believe I should be at the back. Yes, I am. Get a good starting camera here, ready to go. We're just a few moments away from the race start. Cacophony of interesting horn noises. Just get everyone excited for the race ahead. So Kusler on the front row there is in the Alfa Romeo P2, that's a 1925 model. And Rai Lazzaro is in the 1927 Bugatti, so they will struggle a little bit in that one. And then we've got Johnny Lindholm in the P3 spot in the 1927 Delage. Hell of a sound that these cars make. So Lindholm in P3 is one to watch during this race. They'll be considered one of the hardest to beat, but Pelton, Smith, Uotila, Heitinen and Tolnin will be the most probable challenges. So Korkowski, Kusler, Sieversten, Withoft, Hirkinen, Henry will be fighting for the next positions behind them. So we should have some really good battles coming up in the race. I look forward to seeing how things unfurl. Come the lights. The lights are up, engines are revving. And away we go, off to 10 laps of Fontenay, round 10 Grand Prix. There's one of the SSKs just coming up in the background, and Lindholm off to a flying start into P1 already with Lazzaro in P2, with Peltonen moving up as well. Tolnin in a strong start there in P4 already. Heading down to the first turn. And it's Kusler dealing with a little bit of traffic on both sides, with the other cars trying to find a way to pile in. A lot of cars going down the left-hand side there, with Smith, Heitinen and Lubramiski making an early move and just sneaking on through whilst the pack is so tight. And in the front here we've got Lindholm, Peltonen and Tolnin all jostling for positions. At the moment Kusler losing A little bit of momentum and also getting a bit of traffic forming around them, which we'll just stick with for a second. And Kai Siversen in the background making a move on Korkajowski. You see the drivers seem to be careful at this stage in the race to avoid early damage or issues which may have a lasting impact on their ability to complete this race in a good strong position. Kusler in a very kind of tight pack at the moment, lots of drivers in the fray here. You can see Withoft just dancing around behind Kusler, struggling for a bit of grip on the dirt here. It's like contact between Rai Lazaro and Crozet. I think Crozet's found themselves in a bit of a pickle. Yep. That's Lazaro and Crozet caught up in that incident. But back at the front we've got Johnny Lindholm out in front with a 0.8 second gap to Peltonen. Haley Smith in the background as well, as is Heitinen, Tolinen and Lubomirski, all in the same village, and therefore this could turn out to be one hell of a battle. I was worried there for a second I didn't have a livery for Peltonen, but they've just switched to the white livery, usually driving in a black livery. Haley Smith only 0.3 of a second ahead of Heitinen at the moment, and having to deal with an early lap 1 battle unfolding as they dive through the countryside here. As always in 1920s racing, lamp posts and walls and no real safety gear is employed, so drivers seem to be very careful not to find their way into any of these immovable objects. That's a quick trip to the hospital and a lot of car damage. Smith drifting the car through the corner. Further back down in P11 we've got Pereira, Pekkanen and Nestia. Nestia being the new driver in the Mercedes SSK there. Back out in front we've got Lindholm and Peltonen going toe to toe already as they look for dominance here. In the background you can see Heitinen and Smith as well, just getting involved in their own battle as well. Under the SO bridge they go, down the hill, positioning from pavements back down onto gravel. Kai Siversen just overtaking Korkajowski there in the number 30 car, moving up to P6. Meanwhile, Kusler in P13 has got Pekkanen and Uotila in hot pursuit. And Nestia and Kusler going side by side. Kusler gaining in a position there, and now it's Nestia who's under risk of overtake from Pekkanen coming up in the Mercedes. Definitely a circuit that keeps drivers on their toes. You're having to deal with the... Oh, Lubomirski has been turned around and returned to pits. Looks like that's a DNF for Lubomirski already. Just as I was explaining that the risk of this kind of a circuit on the cars, you know, one slip up and it's definitely a game over. those trees and the twisty nature of the circuit means that you're always on your toes. One small mistake can spell disaster very quickly indeed. Looks like Pereira and Darling going side by side. And it's Darling and the SSK losing out to Pereira in the Delage. Meanwhile, at the front, Lindholm continues to fight for dominance. And it's Peltonen who's up here as well, along with Heitinen and Smith, all keeping the pressure on. And pressure is one thing you don't really want in addition to keeping an eye on this very challenging circuit. So Kusela and Pekkanen trading positions once again. They're having a bit of a battle of their own, and it's Kusela sliding the rear end of the Alfa Romeo. Oh, it looks like Kusela having a bit of trouble there with Pekkanen in the backed corner, and it's Pekkanen who pulls over to the side of the road. Damage or cooling issues? Engine was off, re-engaged, then back underway, but maybe they just stalled. Meanwhile, at the front, the battle continues. Lindholm, Peltonen and Heitinen involved in a three-way battle. All during lap 1, I remind you. Leaving no performance on the table, these guys are really pushing their cars to the limits and knowledge of the circuit. Not the kind of circuit you can drive without having practiced it quite a bit. And Peltonen looking for an opportunity here. There's actually Heitinen coming around on the inside there, takes the opportunity. Peltonen left available there, Peltonen going slightly wide, leaving Heitinen space on the inside, and Heitinen said thank you very much and slipped on through. So approaching the end of lap 1, and you can see just what the risks are involved here. These guys are really pushing to the edges of the track limits, and there we go, that's exactly what I was worried about happening. We've got Heitinen and Peltonen having got turned around. I don't know if that was due to contact. Certainly shows the risks which are involved, and you can see Heitinen trying to get back on the circuit now. Thankfully has a little bit of a gap to the cars behind to allow them to get back on circuit, but just a reminder of the risks. Nestia in the pits as well, that suggests a retirement already. That leaves Haley Smith potentially as our race leader. Although the timing board always does get a little bit confused at moments like this. There's Haley Smith crossing the line to put themselves into the top spot. And Lindholm's in the pits as well. That suggests an issue for Lindholm. Peltonen is through to P2 and Tollen up to P3. So Lindholm, our primary contender for the top spot of this race, is already potentially out. And if not out, definitely suffering from a lack of onward momentum at the moment, as they are in the pits without a driver in the car, and that is going to drop them down the standings very rapidly indeed. So already a turn of events which we weren't expecting, as is the unpredictability of racing from this era. Bear in mind that at the moment the tyres are at their best performance. They have all the grip they are going to have, and from here it's only going to get worse. So we might see tyres start to give up their performance as the race continues, and that will leave the drivers in a continuous dance of risk. On the other hand, the cars will get progressively lighter as the fuel burns off, so that makes things a little bit more easy. It's certainly a challenging set of conditions all round. So Lindholm, Rosette's actually under power in the pits, so I think they'll be getting back onto the circuit, but it looks like Nesty is out, and so is Pekkanen. As is Lubramiski. That's lap 1. We've lost 5 drivers already. So back to P3, and we've got Tollen, who is in a bit of a battle with Heitinen at the moment. They are edging closer together. We've also got Pereira and Uotila, who just traded positions. Both drivers in the Delage, I believe. That's Uotila up to P8. We're going back to Tollen. We've got Heitinen on the inside, just sneaking on through, leaving Tollen to just drop down to P4. Interesting, they're both driving the number 6 livery. So Tollen catching a little bit of grass there, at risk of hitting a fence if that kind of thing continues. Mentioned earlier on, it's going to be more of a survival issue than a performance issue here, I would have thought. from the onboard point of view, you can see it's actually a reasonable width circuit, but a lot of issues off circuits if you were to hit any of them. And you can see just how close some of these lampposts and things are. You've got those curbs as well on the left hand side, which aren't helpful, and then the change of track surface from gravel to cobblestones will mean that you can't get complacent with your understanding of how the car and the track play together. Already after one lap the drivers are relatively spread out already. 4+ seconds between every driver at this point in time, so really drivers are now just racing against themselves. That's where you can kind of focus just on driving your line and maximising your performance on the circuit, but it becomes a little bit of a mental game at this point. Watching the timings and trying to make sure that you're A, making progress, but B, not letting the person behind you catch you. Further back we've got Withoft in the number 4 car, currently driving in P6. Seeing the livery seem to go from green to black there as the camera panned past. We've also got Clio here in the very interesting car in the blue livery. And Crozet, who was caught out in that incident earlier on the race. Quite a different engine sound coming from Clio's car. But Crozet making light work of the overtake there. Seems to have a lot more power available. And climbs the hill to make an easy pass. Also had Uatilla and Korkowski getting a little bit closer together. There's Withoft in the number 4. Uatilla driving the number 24 livery, currently in P7. And Korkowski in the number 28 blue car behind is getting a little bit close for comfort. A little while ago, but has now since dropped back down to about 2 seconds behind. Poppy is lining the circuit. And it's Withoft who's actually at risk here of being caught by Uatilla. On board with Uatilla, you can see good progress being made. I think we need to quickly take a look at Darling, who has just made contact with the environment at 122 kilometers an hour and now is significantly off circuit and with a lot of damage. I think they are going to be heading to the pits, I imagine, unless they can get their car back underway. You can see just how far they've slid off the circuit here. Back to the battle between Kai Sivertsen and Withoft and Uatilla. These drivers are all starting to ease into a little bit of a trio formation. And it's Uatilla who seems to be most likely of overtaking at the moment, with the overtake coming now on the outside. Both drivers now only moments behind Kai Sivertsen, and with Withoft going around the left hand side there, it looks like they've just managed to make that move work, as has Uatilla, leaving Kai Sivertsen, who was in 5th, down into 7th place now. But the battle between Withoft and Uatilla isn't over just yet. And Uatilla is through. Meanwhile, Chloe and Sens trading positions as they go through the carousel. Really is quite a remarkable little car, that one. Meanwhile, Withoft back in P6 continues with a good gap now behind. Kai Sivertsen 2.9 seconds behind, but Uatilla's already opened up a 4.2 second gap. Looking back now to Kai Sivertsen, who's also under pressure from Korkowski. I wonder if Kai Sivertsen's having to lift a little bit just to maintain the car, because they seem to be losing positions a little too rapidly for it to be completely normal. I think they're going into the pits. Yes, they are. So Kai Sivertsen into the pits, possibly to repair damage. I'm not entirely sure at this stage. That leaves Pereira to move up to P8. So Helly Smith still leads the race, currently on lap number 3 with a 11-second gap to Peltonen. So as per the driver briefing, most drivers are expected to do this on one set of tyres without needing to stop. Obviously that doesn't include the risk of damage and therefore needing to stop for unforeseen circumstances. But if all goes well, it's likely that Haley Smith might be able to just take this one to the end of the race without stopping. Going back down to P14, we've got Lippy getting overtaken by Jusens there, and Lippy moves down to P15. Jusens up to P14, having overtaken Clio a little bit ago. Korkowski in the number 28, just coming under the SO sign now. Stands almost 10 seconds behind Withoft at this point. Well, the Korkowski's pulling over to the side of the circuit. Could be for cooling. Oh no, actually no, you've got a rear left puncture. A constant threat in this series, which has caught a few drivers out, and I think Korkowski is going to be dealing with that for a few moments, which may damage their potential here, but Lazzaro is a good distance behind. So Korkowski may be able to hold on to his position, their position, sorry. Timing board's struggling a little bit because it's not showing Korkowski having fallen any further back behind Pereira, but obviously they must be, given they are making no progress at this point. Just going to quickly see if any other drivers do manage to make it past Korkowski. But he is back under power now. Puncture has been fixed. Korkowski is back underway. As Haley nears the end of the third lap, quite significant gaps have formed between our drivers, and Korkowski, even suffering the puncture there, didn't lose out too much in terms of positions, which shows some of the size of the gaps which have formed already. Such is the nature of the circuit and the racing of this era. Haley now approaching the end of the third lap. From the onboard point of view here, you can see just how demanding the circuit actually is. Lots of blind corners here, lots of faith in your muscle memory for the circuit. And then another of the carousel style corners, or a climb back up the hill. There's actually Marcus Peltonen here who is at risk of Heitinen getting a little bit close. Gap seems to have closed a little bit now to sub 2 seconds, and Heitinen's making some good ground now on the ascent up the hill. Only 0.7 of a second behind Peltonen at this stage. .5 of a second now. I wonder if that's Peltonen having to cool the engine potentially, or fuel saving, or purely just not having the pace, but that isn't usually the case. And coming up to the start-finish line, you can see Peltonen makes a dash into the pits, leaving Heitinen unchallenged to take the P2 spot in the race. That will also mean that Tollenin is in a potential position here to overtake. So Tollenin now very convincingly in the third spot of the race. He's got a 32-second gap to Uatila behind. And Peltonen remains in the pits, so just leaving the pits now will hopefully therefore retain their position as compared to Withoft, who is about 6 seconds behind, but probably a little bit too far back to catch up at this stage. with Oft remaining about 5 to 6 seconds behind. Elton is starting to open a slightly larger gap to Rithoff now. It's just extending that to 9 seconds, 3 seconds greater than when they were exiting the pit lane. The gap's at about 6.5 seconds. Back down to P12, we've got Juicens being followed by Lippy, 10 seconds behind however. Can't quite see Lippy at this stage. But the Bugatti, as mentioned in the driver briefings notes, is certainly an underdog for the race today, and you can see just why that might be. Certainly seem to be underpowered compared to the Delages. Yes, a surprising amount of DNFs in this race. Here you can see Hayden Smith though starting to catch up with a back marker, which I believe might be Axel. Yes it is, yeah. So that's Haley Smith, our current race leader, racing one of the Mercedes SSKs, currently running in P18. Makes the overtake look easy, sliding the car forward drift through the left-hander there as they overtake P18 to lap. So just taking a look at the lap statistics, Hayley Smith currently has the best lap of the race, which is the last lap, 11:32, 2:91 for the Delage. Meanwhile, Heitinen also has an 11:32, but that's a 9:33. And then the next quickest would be Uatilla with an 11:39, 9:03. So they've just come in a slightly quicker than Heitinen just then. No, sorry, I stand corrected. That's 11:39. So they're a lot better. It was Marcus Pelton with 11:33, 1:16. Most of the drivers driving are in the 12 or 13 minute mark. So Hayley and Heitinen, along with Pelton, are definitely in a league of their own at this stage. Just checking on Tolonen. Tolonen has a 11:49.722, so not the fastest lap time, but definitely holding his own in P3 at the moment. So it seems like Withoft has had a bit of a issue there. Contact with the environment at 114 kilometers an hour, and thankfully these trees are a lot less solid than they appear. But they have got 2 front punctures, and are very much struggling to keep the car going in the direction that they would like it to go into. See whether Withoft can nurse the car back to the pit lane. But sparks are flying. And Pereira is now overtaking. I think they've lost all the ability to turn the car properly. And that might be a retirement or waiting to fix the tyres. Korkowski currently in P28. The timing seems a bit messed up, so I'm not entirely sure how far back Korkowski is compared to Withoft. Meanwhile, Withoft continues to repair the car. Darling and Lippi now trading positions as Darling in the SSK nips on through. That leaves Lippi down to P14 and the number 22 car. Oh, and Darling is very much losing control of the Mercedes there, and appeared to go flying off the circuit. Amazingly, he seems to have avoided damage, but then, as I mentioned, the trees don't seem to offer much resistance. So I think, unlike a real crash in these cars at this time, Darling has done very well there to avoid any significant damage. So Withoft has managed to repair one of the front tyres. And I think they're hoping that that will carry them through to the pit lane. We're about halfway through the race at this stage. Interesting with Withoff's livery that it fades to black as the camera pans past. Again, really struggling there with cornering ability, but here's the pits, and that's going to allow Withoff to nurse the car back in, get some attention in the pits from the pit crew, and get underway again. And thankfully these cars aren't physically there, because that would be an interesting way to enter the pits. So Withoff under repairs now. That's going to give Korkelski an opportunity to close the gap a little bit. They're currently 55 seconds or so behind, but that gap is closing rapidly, and I think Withoff is going to have to get that wheel fixed, and I don't know if they'll be adding any fuel or not. But Korkelski has got an opportunity here to at least shave off some of the delta, if not grab the P7 position as a result of the incident that Withoff has experienced. And I think it's looking pretty favourable here for Korkelski. Only 17 seconds to go. And as you can see, Withoff's tyres are now being fixed, but they haven't left the pits just yet. In the background you can see Korkelski just appearing. Here comes the number 28, Korkelski, up to P7. La in the Talbot is just a little bit too far back, I think. Meanwhile, in P2, Heitinen, 38 seconds behind the race leader, has quite a tall mountain to climb in terms of challenging for the P1 spot. It's Kai Severson in the number 30 car. He's just overtaken Lazaro to obtain the P10 position. So, Kai Severson and Lazaro hitting on lap 5. just a short stop for Kai Sieveston. They've already exited the pits. Lazaro taking a little bit longer. Be a different strategy being employed in the pits here. But Darling has just overtaken Clio once again. And the mighty Mercedes being thrown around these corners. Lazaro remains in the pits still. Cars either in, so suggest it is a legit stop and not a disconnection. But meanwhile, Axelin and Lafrege trading positions, I think, because Lafrege is in a rather unfortunate position right now. I think they've got well, no visible punctures, but seem to be off circuit and in a bit of a pickle. Allowed Axelin to get back up to P16, but Lafrege gets the car back under power and moves to rejoin. I think there's Kusler in the background as well. Kusler, of course, on the P1 spot, seems to have a front left puncture, if the graphics aren't deceiving me. Can't see if the tyre actually punctured, but these sparks coming off the frame and the wheel isn't rotating. Yeah, definite issues there for Kusler in the Alpha. Meanwhile, back here with the number 3 car driven by Haley Smith, our race leader. Aitonen's in the pits as well. That will allow Attila to get past, I'm sure. Here comes Attila though, up to P2. One of the SSKs coming out, that's Darling, leaving the pit lane now. That's Grazat, no? It looks like Marcus Peltonen may be in with a shot here of overtaking Aitonen, whilst Aitonen's in the pit lane here. 20 seconds to go until that happens. There they are, just coming around the final corner. But they're actually also going to pit as well, so Peltonen's taking the opportunity to pit. Will that leave Tolnin in with an opportunity to pit? So, due to pit strategy, Tollen finds themselves in P3 on the podium. So Haley Smith, 5.4 laps through the race at the moment. Tollen up to P3, Uatilla in P2. Carlton's back out, but Pereira's into the pits as well. And then quite a significant gap to Kwiatkowski in P7, with Withoft equally far behind Kwiatkowski. Tollen certainly not holding back at all as they drift the car, all four wheels, through some of these corners. Switching from the gravel to the cobblestone tarmac and back again. Kwiatkowski's managed to get up to P6 now on the back of Heitinen, still being in the pits. Heitinen is in the car, so it's not as if they've been disconnected. Engines coming back on. So Heitinen back out and under power. 30 seconds behind Korkowski at this point, with Withoff just coming into the pits as well. That may allow La to catch up a little bit. Further up the grid though, Smith, Uatila and Tolnan remain pretty stable in terms of their distance apart, either closing or breaking away significantly. There's Haley Smith overtaking Houston's, I think that is. They continue to eke out an advantage at the front. So round the hairpin. So, Smith into the pits. No single, well, no stop strategy is the word I'm trying to find, as I suspected earlier on, and they do have a minute gap to Uatila, but that may not be enough, depending on how quick the strategy is. Whether Bingus 3 can get back out there before Uatila approaches from the background. We'll just keep a camera here on Smith as we wait in the pit lane for that. Timing board getting a bit confused again. We jump up and down between 30 odd seconds and a minute and a half, but I think it looks like Uatila might be on track here to at least make a very large dent in the gap between these two. Uatila, of course, has hit it already, I believe. Oh, I stand corrected. No pit stops for Uatila just yet, so it might be that it's a short-lived overtake if there is one, and here it comes. Attila moving up to the P1 spot for the time being. Tolan next in line for an overtake, but a bit further back. And we have another driver entering the pits at the moment as well. As does another driver behind them. So Kai Sieverson's disconnected, it seems. Lippy is in. And that was Axel coming in, whilst Haley Smith starts to exit. Looks like Lazzaro and Darling are back into a bit of a battle here as they take the Bugatti and the Mercedes for a bit of a spin. Seen Darling get a little bit caught out by some of the off-track adventures we've seen, but they overtake on Lazzaro, who's been executed cleanly without too much issue. And that leaves Darling up to P11 with Lazzaro moving a bit down to P12. Back here in P6 now with Korkowski. Only about 10 to 12 seconds ahead of Heitinen, give or take, depending where they are on the lap. And Heitinen has been gaining a little bit. May mean that there's an overtake coming up. Lefredge struggling to keep the Bugatti on track at the moment. Oh, but it looks like Lazaro is ahead of Darling again, because Darling is once again off track. Struggling in the Mercedes, it seems. No punctures as far as I can see. But Korkowski in pits now. And that means Leitonen is through without too much issue. Moves back up to P6. Right, Severston remains disconnected in the pits, joining Lindholm and Pakkinen. Holland currently in P3 does have Marcus Peltonen closing to within 14 or so seconds. But there is less time remaining in this race, and that's going to make some of these gaps a little bit difficult to overcome in that time frame. So Marcus Peltonen closing now to sub 10 seconds behind Tolnin. Down from about 14. But as yet hasn't appeared in the background. Peltonen here in P4, now 7 seconds behind Tolnin. And starting to put the pressure on. 4.4 seconds up on their best lap time as well. Overall, server lap times still show Hayley Smith with the best time of 11:31.886. But for comparison, Peltonen put in an 11:33.116 as their best lap. And there's Tolnin, only 3.6 seconds ahead of Peltonen now. Hayley Smith's in the pit lane, which means that Tolnin and Peltonen look like they might be about to overtake. And here they come down the start straight. Tolnin and Peltonen moving up to P2 and 3 respectively. Hayley Smith, our race leader up until now, remains in the pits. No engine sound as yet. Tolnin still holding on to P2 for the time being, but Peltonen definitely pushing now with a renewed vigour. And I think we're going to see an overtake very shortly. Peltonen just losing out a little bit there, having moved back. Tolnin's done a great job of just holding on to P2 for the time being. 3.7 seconds between Peltonen and Tolnin now. It's going to be a race to the end of this lap to see where they come out, and ultimately who's going to come out to this race on top in terms of P2. Seems like Utilla's in a pretty solid position for the overall win, but I don't think Utilla's pitted yet, so unless they can get to the end without having to pit, might see a late stage pit from Utilla, which might change the running order. So the Fredge into the pits, as is Axelin. But Peltonen stays out in P3 at the moment, 11 seconds behind Tollenin now, so falling slightly further back. You can see on the lap delta there, 19 seconds off of their best. And Haley Smith, 18 seconds behind Peltonen. Leitonen remains in the pits. Korkowski stopped outside the pit lane here. Possibly with damage on the front wheels. That seems to be repaired now. Odd place to have an issue like that. Leitonen back out and under power, being followed by Kusler. Let's go back to Peltonen running in P3 because Haley Smith now only 5.5 seconds behind. In the background now, Haley Smith approaching rapidly, 2 seconds now, separating Smith from Peltonen. And there's the overtake. Haley Smith through to P3, Peltonen P4. So Clio disconnected, it seems, close to the end of the race, unfortunately. Shame to get this far and then not be able to get it over the line. Meanwhile, the battle at the front continues. Smith and Peltonen now separated by about 9 seconds. But Haley Smith only 7 seconds behind Tolnan, and whilst we didn't see Peltonen catch and overtake Tolnan, that might be a different kettle of fish now that Haley Smith is involved. Haley Smith through the carousel now, heading back up the hill, 4 seconds behind Tolnan. Tolnin and Peltonen are in the pits apparently, and that's made things a lot easier for Hayley Smith. But Tolnin is back out then, maybe it's just splash and dash for Tolnin, but a good 40 seconds behind Hayley Smith at this point, and so close to the end of the race as well. So Axelin has retired race as well, they didn't come back out the pits. So Heitenen, to answer your question in chat there, is cracking on. Currently running in P6. Had a bit of an extended trip to the pit lane, but no flip as yet. So nearing the end of the race now, and drivers still relatively spread out for the most part. Seems to be a pretty solid lead for Uatilla, but again, I don't think we've seen Uatilla pit, so unless they're planning to do this without a pit stop, which may very well be possible, they may need to come in, but even if they did, I think they have a 1 minute and 43 gap to Smith. Based on the engine sound and the lap time, I think Uatilla's potentially in fuel saving mode. Which may be further evidence of a no-stop strategy, or just trying to get to the pit lane for a splash and dash. We'll see that shortly, because they're 8.6 of the way around, or 60% of the way around the lap, so it won't be too long until they're in for a last chance saloon for the pit stop. Under the Michelin sign. Oh, Uatilla almost putting it into the side of a barn there. That would have been a disastrous end to what would have otherwise been an absolutely stunning race for Uatilla, but does well to avoid trouble. It may also be the tyres starting to wear thin now. We did say at the beginning that the hard start tyre can go whole race distance, but may struggle towards the end, and I think that's what we're seeing. Yes, the first person camera does give a sense of speed and danger, especially for these parts here where large camber changes and the amount of things which are just off the road which you could hit does make you wonder sometimes about the safety of the racing at this era. So Uatilla almost at the end of the lap, and I think this is the final corner now. I would be leaning towards the suspicion that they might be heading for a pit stop. They'd have a safety net of 1 minute and 20 for it to happen in. Round the carousel. Now this is the final corner, I believe. Oh, called it wrong again. Almost there though, 9.0 laps, so it must be coming up very shortly. There we go. So, will Uatilla be pitting? Yes, they will. Now it's really just a question of will Haley Smith be able to catch up at all. They've got 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. If if you thought it looked dangerous from Utilla's point of view, the Haley Smith isn't holding back. And that's where things can get very, very edge of your seat. Driving the mighty fine Bingus 3. So, Utilla is out of the pits already. Haley Smith wasn't able to get there in time, but they're not too far behind, only 27 seconds, 26. The speed advantage that Haley is bringing is closing the gap still. And now we have to see who out of these two will finish this race in the P1 spot. 23 seconds is well within Haley's grasp for a lap as long as the one that this one is. Haley Smith overtaking one of the back markers there. It's a good question, Nerdy, and I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. It certainly doesn't improve the percentage at the top. So green 93% is what the race has been on for the entirety of the event, and that might be a consequence of it being gravel. But I would imagine technically there's no rubbering in, as it were, of the gravel, so it shouldn't get any better, but I'm not entirely sure if it gets worse. So it's still 20 seconds separating Smith from Utilla. And Smith just marginally off their best lap time, whereas Utilla's 5.6 down. So it might be that Haley Smith has got something in the tank still. Looks like Lazaro and Darling are going side by side. SSK versus the Bugatti. These two have been overtaking each other back and forth for the majority of the race. It usually results in Darling taking a little trip off into a field shortly after, though, and then recovering. But this may be different. I'm going to stay with these two just for a little bit longer. Both drivers taking a little bit of an exotic line through the last corner. Narrow there, just a little trip into the bushes, but manages to recover. I suppose after 2 hours of driving you can forgive the drivers from being a little bit fatigued, especially if their car's tyres are starting to give up. And these are a little bit of a handful to drive full stop. Narrowly avoiding a fence there. Meanwhile, Uatilla in the front here, halfway around the lap now. Still 17 seconds separating Smith from Uatilla, so that gap is closing, but it's not closing quickly enough for Smith to really threaten Uatilla at this stage. .6 seconds now, but rapidly running out of lap time. Uatilla under the Michelin sign. It looks like Tollenen's on track here for a podium finish, which would be a great result. Meanwhile, Haley Smith here on track with their best lap time. Maybe a very small improvement. Uatilla 10 seconds down on their best lap time. So Smith is absolutely cooking here, and they do hold the best lap time currently. Smith climbing the hill. Sliding the car through the corners. But it looks like Uatilla may be in with a solid shot here. 12.6 seconds now separating the two. Back to the front though with Uatilla in the number 24, and they are closing rapidly on the end of this lap. There's Kusler in the Alpha. Ah, Lafredge, I'm sorry to hear that. You're one of many to unfortunately not make it to the end of this race. What was your undoing, Lafredge? Tell me more. So here we have Uatilla crossing the line to claim their first spot. Haley Smith only 12 seconds behind, which isn't bad considering it's a 2-hour race. But Haley Smith picks up P2. And I think that will leave our next driver to be Tolnin, 1 minute and 20 seconds behind. Gears, oil pressure, brakes and cooling. Well, that's just a couple of issues. Well, there you go. You found the silver lining. Your personal best has been established. So Tolnin on track here to finish in P3. Just needs to nurse it round the next couple of corners, and there it is, the end in sight. Podium finish for Tolnin. And Peltonen, despite a very valiant effort and without the benefit of their teammate Nurmi, be bringing home what looks like a solid P4, but Pereira is only 7 seconds behind and closing rapidly. So Peltonen trying to bring it home for a P4 finish, but Pereira is literally just about to be alongside now, and that's going to leave Peltonen just painfully short of finishing in the position they've been trying to do so for the last 2 hours, but looks like Peltonen isn't quite giving up just yet. 40 seconds to go to the end of the race here, and Peltonen is just clinging on. 1 second behind though, so I think their car is just simply not in a position to fight. And there you have a commanding lead being established by Pereira as they open up a 2+ second gap, and the gap's extending. Up to the start-finish line they go. Pereira picking up P4. Peltonen grabbing P5. Okay, so while we wait for the remainder of the drivers to finish up the lap, we'll go ahead and jump into the official stream channel and grab an interview with our podium holders. Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? Give me 1 second, I need to get Discord to realise now it's time to shine on the stream, so just set that quickly. Can someone say something quickly?
Hello, hello.
There we go, perfect. I can hear you all now. So, well, congratulations everyone. I think I've got all of the podium winners here, haven't I? So, quite an interesting race there with a few changes of fortune for various drivers. Talk me through how the race went from your perspective, guys.
Okay, I can start. I had a perfect race after the first lap crash. I mean, there were a few cars crashing in front of me. I started from the back. It was 23rd position on the grid, and I couldn't avoid them. I made contact and had a yellow front and back after that, but luckily it didn't seem to affect my speed very much. I mean, I was slow before and after this incident, and after that I had no failures at all, and whereas competitors had plenty, so I was really lucky.
Yeah, that's a good turn of events for yourself there, Attila. It was a solid drive from yourself as well throughout the entirety of the race. It was quite surprising, actually. You mentioned earlier on that there was, a few people having a crash in the first lap. Is that what led to so many of the drivers, falling out of the race early on? It seemed like lap one claimed a few drivers quite quickly.
I suppose so, but I don't really know because I wasn't able to follow the others so closely. I was just trying to concentrate on keeping myself on the track and having a consistent race, and I almost managed it. On the second but last lap, on the last but second lap, how do you say that? Second last lap, I almost ran out of fuel because I forgot to follow the fuel gauge, and I had to slow down and use really big gears and try to save fuel, and I managed to itch myself to the pit stop with 0 point something fuel left, so I almost made a real blunder there.
Yeah, if you watch the stream back, there was a moment where I was waiting or trying to predict when you'd be coming in for your pit stop, and I figured you might be doing it at the last minute. And then when I cut to you on the camera, you were definitely in fuel saving mode. So my suspicions were confirmed just now. So yes, was there any potential to do a zero stop race, or was the fuel always going to be the limiting factor?
I thought I wouldn't have to refuel, but I was completely wrong, because if I had driven normally, I wouldn't have finished the 9th lap at all.
Oh wow, so yeah, cutting it quite close there. But yeah, well done, Yutil. I think it's been a really solid drive from yourself, and it's nice to see you bring it home into the first spot. And how are you feeling about the remainder of the rounds to come? Is there a track you're looking forward to that's in the calendar?
Probably plenty of those, but I'm a bit worried that I have used up all my good luck in this race, so I'll be having lots of problems in the remaining ones, I'm afraid.
Well, if you go in with an attitude that things might go wrong, you'll be at least pleasantly surprised when they don't.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit to Tolnen then. So another podium finish for yourself, Tolnen, and a P3 finish. I was rooting for you at the end there, as you were a little bit under pressure, I think, from Pereira in the closing few minutes, but managed to eke away a little bit of a gap. How did you find the race in general?
Well, it was pretty easy. I had one or two spins and one tire puncture that cost a bit time, but otherwise just pretty smooth. But somehow I was surprised how slow I was comparing to other Delages. I had no chance to answer their pace at all. Yeah, I don't understand why, but
I was catching that in the live timing board. You weren't necessarily up there on the pace or the lap time, but your consistency, I think, through in the end. So yeah, swings and roundabouts, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I had 2 spare wheels on board. Maybe they wasn't, and maybe that gave me a bit more weight than they have. But I don't know. Somehow I was feeling really slow, even though I was driving okay, in my opinion. But well, at least I got the podium and a good race.
Yeah, very much so. So, what's as the organizer of things around here, maybe you can tell us: are there any new cars being introduced for the end of the next round, or it's going to be the Delage you're going to be driving for some time, you think?
Well, Delage will be quite competitive for next few races, I guess. But for next race there will be a new version of Mercedes SSK again, and then probably I will make the Bentley blower also, that 4.5 liter monster. And then we are racing in the Monaco, so that fits very well.
Oh wow, so a Bentley blower around Monaco, that sounds like it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, but actually, if I remember it correctly, the SSK was pretty competitive in Monaco in real life race. So let's see how it does.
Yeah, that should be interesting. I saw a few SSKs in some interesting positions in this race, should we say. A few drivers took a very interesting trip off into the countryside. I think Darling a few times. I realised I'd had an accident, and then when I cut to them on the camera, they were some way away from the track. So yeah, a few interesting moments on stream there for you to look back at.
Yeah, I noticed that at least Darling was there somewhere on really not so nice position on some bush, but I don't know anything else.
Yeah,
I have to watch the stream.
Well, yeah, there's a few moments in there for you to enjoy. How about Haley? How was your race? You did a very good job today of bringing home another solid P2. Talk me through your strategy for the race today.
Well, my strategy really was don't crash, to be honest, and that went quite well, I must say. I did have quite a good lead at one point, but then I got a spark plug failure as I came across the line to start lap 6. And then not far into lap 7, after I then fixed the spark plugs, I then got a fuel pump failure, which basically meant I wasn't going to be able to get the lead back. But I came out of the pits in 4th, and I guess Marcus must have had a problem because him and Versa had just come past me as I'd only just pulled into the pits. So I assume Versa. I mean, Marcus had a problem. Then I managed to catch up with Versa to get second, and I spent the rest of the time praying that I wouldn't get like a puncture or something.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a
Yeah.
lottery, isn't it, with the damage on these? I saw Lefredge in YouTube chat was saying that they had lost gears, oil pressure, brakes, and cooling, which was a personal best for them in terms of braking stuff.
Yeah. That's rather inconvenient, I must say. But yeah, I know I'm adding to the lap 1 shenanigans. I did have what I would describe as a brown trousers moment when both Marcus and another driver, who I'm not sure who it was, came together right in front of me in a very fast corner. Both spun, and I only just managed to avoid hitting them. And then, like 2 corners later, Yoni went off as well, and only just managed to avoid him. That's the point where I took the lead. The thing, if those 2 accidents hasn't ever happened, I don't think I would have been able to take the lead, simply because I was keeping up but not gaining time on those other 3. So
Yeah, it was unfortunate for Yoni. Good starting position in the ballots, but then an early exit from the race. So yeah, it sounds like you managed to capitalise on some of those opportunities which were presented to you, and then the failures that you had, or mechanical failures, didn't do enough to stop you from getting a solid P2. So yeah, very well done in the race today. And I like the strategy of just don't break anything and try and finish. It's a solid approach.
that's kind of how I always do.
You can't really fault that logic. Henry, I see you've joined us in chat as well.
Yes, I did. I joined the race a little later. My strategy was just finishing the race, so I can receive the credits after the race for finishing it, and hopefully not to finish in last place of the finishers, which I probably did. I didn't look at the results yet, but yeah, it was even when I joined halfway the race, it was quite eventful with first a spark plug failure at 2 laps before the end, and 1 lap later I had a fuel pump failure. So I stood at the pits the last 2 laps, and the final lap I was just bringing it home, and now I'm here.
Oh, I see. So similar issues to the Haley on the fuel pump and the spark plug failure. Is there anything in particular that contributes to these mechanical issues? Is it a car configuration, or is it just entirely pot luck as to pop up?
I think it's just random. It's it's part of the sport, mechanical failure, so it can happen to anyone. And this time I was the one with the bad luck, and same for Haley, I guess.
Well, hopefully that's the end of the mechanical issues for the rounds coming up. Are you looking forward to any of the or to change car at all, or are you sticking with what right now?
I think I stay with the Delage at the moment.
Yeah, it seems to be a popular choice at the moment.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the other cars. I'm considering Maserati or even Mercedes when it is available, but I need to save some credits for those cars. So I'm a little in doubt now, but for now I think I stay with the Delage.
Sounds good. I think it's was it you with the trusty Sunbeam that you kept for a very, very long time? The large.
Yes, that was me. I
Yep.
still have the Sunbeam in my garage, so to speak, and well, we'll see if I will bring it forward again.
Well, it'll be a good day when we see that one again. But yeah, thanks for attending the interview, Henry, and good to see you managing to finish the race, even though you joined quite late. You didn't come last of the finishes, so I suppose that's a good result considering the late start. But yeah, thanks everyone for your time in the interviews. It's been a pleasure commentating on the race today, and I'm really looking forward to what's in store for the next round.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We are also very keen on driving the next race.
Yeah, I'm keen on driving. I'm keen on driving the next race in the blower Bentley for comedy purposes.
Well, looking forward to
This
some
race is
more
Monaco,
battles then.
Yep. Hope to be Bentley versus Mercedes, and just blocking the track for everyone else, just causing a traffic jam.
Sounds good, guys. Well, I'll leave you all to the rest of your evening, and I'll catch you on the next round.
Okay, thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Cheers.
Bye.
Well, that concludes today's race, everyone, and hopefully you've enjoyed yourselves in chat. And a big thank you for Holland for organising the race, of course, and for all those who participated in these races. And if you are looking forward to getting involved in some vintage racing, then drop into the CVR Discord and say hello. I'm sure Tolan will be very happy to get you directed onto the track and into some racing. But without further ado, I shall end the stream here and wish you all a very good rest of the weekend.